ever
This is
use
something I
fake
wanted
names
to
to
ask
trick
about.
people? Like whenever I want to be anonymous, I'm like just a dude 2002, right? So they think I'm some 16-year-old idiot. Is that a play you do or no?
That's definitely a play that people do for sure. But then it becomes a game. Like if it's too stupid, maybe like it's clearly. But the thing is, the jig can only go on for so long because if you play against someone and they're good, and after 30 or 50 hands that you see that they're playing good, you're like, okay, this guy's not an idiot, you know? One thing I used to do back in the day, this is actually quite funny. So my former poker I always like to play was heads up. Just one-on-one poker basically, and so that's the form I think most people like know me from. Basically, that was the one I got the best at, and I did this thing where I knew no one would ever play me if they knew who I was. I knew a lot of people wouldn't play me if I was just playing good, so I developed some like really weird strategies that if I played another really good player, I couldn't do because I would lose. It would be a bad strategy, but just like kind of crazy enough strategies that people couldn't tell if I was bad or not. Right? Because they just like, can't tell. So like maybe overall I'm playing pretty good, but pre-flop, usually you want to open to 2.5 big blinds. It's kind of the standard. It's like just a poker thing, like to know what to raise to. Sometimes I might raise like 6, right? Sometimes I might just call. Sometimes I might raise 1 or what. Like I was like throwing it all over the place, and the logic was I would think about what makes sense in that range. Like if I was going to raise really big, well, I'd put some really bad hands in there as a bluff, and I'd put some good hands in there in case they get crazy, right? And so I was like thinking about all these different ranges and trying to create stuff that actually made sense. But if you just looked at it and eyeballed it, you're like, this guy's a crazy fish. He's putting a ton of money in, doesn't know what's going to come out. Like no one plays like that. That guy's an idiot. But I actually managed to like fool a lot of people into playing me for long periods of time just by doing crazy shit like that.
I actually have a trick I've done with online poker like that too, where I make all of my screen names so it sounds like an underage girl, and then as soon as you've paid the blind, I get very sexual in the chat, and then they will leave inevitably, and I slowly have garnered my fortune, you know, ante after ante after ante, and if they do decide to stay in and beat me, I report them to the FBI. I've got a whole Google Doc. So that's worked. But something I did want to ask you, like a real
that strat.
Yeah, it's hard to lose with that strat. You know, when I'm Susie Q09, you know, or whatever the hell it is. I'm 9 years old. Yeah. I'm just slaughtering people. Like I've wondered about like sunglasses and hoodies and things like that I see in that world where like somebody will be sitting there totally normal, like you are now, and then some other dude will come in with a hoodie and sunglasses and like an Antifa, bandana and like
it's all unibombered
totally
out.
Is that like among poker players, like pros, is that like you look down on it a little bit? Like that's like the training wheels of it. Like, oh, you're so not confident in your mannerisms. You're wearing sunglasses and listening to music. Like really? Or is it kind of understood? I feel like people would rip on them for that. Like I'm sitting here totally, face to the world and you're sitting there totally shrouded. Like it doesn't seem fair.
That's a really good question. There are two different reasons people do it. The first is not what you would expect, but tables
just ugly.
No, it's definitely not. Well, some players, but no, it's really bright at the table. The lights are extremely bright to show all of the chips and cards and everything. So it can be a little bit unsettling just how bright the lights are coming in at you. And some people just don't want to have that right in their eyes. It's just too much for them.
Enough.
So some people do it because of that. A lot of people do it because there are certain things that you can't control. A good example of this, there's a kind of a thing that's going on in poker for the last few years. A lot of guys wear scarves, which is just, why are you doing this? But your neck, the way that it, I'm not super into this stuff, so I'm not the best guy to explain it, I guess. But your neck apparently, when you gulp or you're just breathing, whatever it is, it looks different depending on what your motives are. And so there's a bunch of guys who always protect their neck with like scarves and stuff so no one can see that. Your eyes are like that too. So I had a big hand in TV poker like 4 or 5 years ago where I ran a really big bluff on like a fairly well-known TV poker game. And the guy is like, he's a serious dude. He's like staring me down. Like I'm sitting here and he's sitting right here, and he's just staring me down, like right in my grill, just like staring me down. And I have nothing. I'm just like staring at the table or whatever. And I'm like, this is really uncomfortable. Like I'm risking several $100,000 to try and bluff this guy out of a pot, and he's just like like staring me down, like trying to figure out like is there any little bit of weakness there? And that's just uncomfortable, man. A lot of people just don't want to have to deal with that. So that bluff, by the way, didn't work. But anyway, the point is, the thing is, like, you know, I think in general, it's not looked down upon too much. I think a lot of players tend to be like, come on, dude. But certainly some great players do that. And I think it's a reasonable strategy.
Huh. No one fakes it. No one tries to act it. You know, like you're maybe adding apprehension that's not really there when you're confident and throwing them off the trail.
Dude, the best, mark my words, 5 years from now, the best poker player on earth is going to have cerebral palsy. You can't read what they're doing. All their moves are a little erratic, just enough that you can't read it. Josh Blue showed that you can do it in stand-up, and I swear to God, he's going to leave that, come over here and dominate. This is a good idea. If you see someone with cerebral palsy, bet on them. Gamble on them. They're going to do great.
I don't even know. I don't even know what to say to that.
Everywhere.
I would have had 4 of a kind if I hadn't dropped it into the fucking table. Yeah.
So
Still 1 with 3 of a kind.
Shit. What was the question again? Oh yeah, acting different. So this is actually basic human psychology. The number one human tell, by the way, is weak means strong and strong means weak. Okay. And I'll give you like a really good example. Let's just say that your girlfriend is cheating on you, and she is suspicious of you, and she comes up really aggressive, like, "What do you do?" It's like she's strong because she's acting strong because her position is weak, right?
Yeah.
This is like basic human stuff. When we're weak, we don't want to seem weak, so we puff up a little bit and we do things to seem strong. So the most common one at low-level poker games is if someone's like, oh, I don't really care, like I guess like we can go all in. You should be really scared because that's a really good hand, right? If you had a bad hand, you're not gonna be like, oh, my hand sucks, so I guess we'll go with it. Like, no, you're not gonna do that because you're just giving away what you have. Or if someone says, this is a classic one, oh, it's the end of the night, I guess I'll go. I guess I gotta go home. Very strong. But if someone's like really like intimidating, like trying to like scare you and stuff, they usually don't have anything. So that's kind of like the level 1 thing. Then you could go level 2, which is I'm gonna seem strong when I'm strong. But the problem is this: you keep playing this game, you're going to go in circles. So what really good players do is they just do the same. Like, for example, one thing I do, if I have a really big hand and I'm going all in on the river, if I have a good hand, I'll gulp like kind of loudly or just like very noticeably gulp, because I know when I'm bluffing, it sucks having to gulp. And so I'll do it like obnoxiously large gulp either way, because then when I'm bluffing, I'm like, I'm gonna do the same thing when I got a good hand. And when I have a good hand, I'm like, maybe he'll think I'm weak. But you just do the same and to protect yourself.
Okay.
How about if you did something like more subtle, like every time they give you a card, no matter what, you go, hell yeah.
They actually have a term for that in poker. It's called being annoying.
It's called being grating and frustrating to play with. Yeah.